guess we are live. So, hello everyone. You are here. And trying to welcome you here. Talk through challenges in implementing privacy impact assessment. So, to be here, we have our guests Tanin and Bhaskara. Tanin and Bhaskara, would like to
Hi
introduce yourself before. Yeah,
Everyone.
hi
Tanin.
everyone.
Yeah, Bhaskara, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi everyone. So I'm Bhaskar. I've been working as a privacy counsel for the last 7 8 years, and I've this is my entire career, data privacy space, and I love to talk about it. That's why I have joined today's webinar. Thank you for inviting me, Manshu. And yeah, we'll get into the topics as we start.
definitely. Thanks for the introduction. Tanin?
Thank you, Himanshu, and everyone for having me. This is Tanin. I'm the global DPO for 𝐵IOLogics. So, maintaining and implementing privacy framework across all jurisdictions is my current role. I have around 18 years of experience. I've worked on various other information security audit implementation, and also doing into service management and other audits. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tanin, for the nice information. So, a little bit about myself. Himanshu, I'm the founder and CEO of the GoTrust. I will be your host today, guys. And we'll ask very difficult questions to Tanen and Bhaskara to go through the topic of today, which is privacy impact assessment, basically. So today we're going to cover basically is challenges in this field. Number one, which will be the lack of awareness and understanding. Number two is resource and constraints. Number three is integration with existing process. Then we'll have conclusion and then Q&A. Guys, if you have any other questions which you think we're covering it here, please post it in the comment box, and then we're gonna ask it basically, and in the Q&A we'll try to answer it. So let's move on and kickstart this session today, guys. So first topic. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Why PIA is important? So I'm going to ask this question. So Bhaskara, help us understand why PIA is important in your organization and with your
Sure,
experience.
sure. Thanks, Himanshu. So, firstly, the personal weightage that I see behind this particular topic is privacy impact assessments in general help the organization understand and identify the risks that are there, be it privacy related risk or security related risk. Now, as an individual, this is an important activity to me because it is directly impacting privacy of individuals. There's a direct relation and there's a direct risk connected with it. So that's why privacy impact assessments are very important for any organization because it impacts the individuals and their rights and freedoms. That will be the short answer.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree. So basically, what we're trying to say is we need to measure the risk, and therefore, basically, we are doing the PIA. Of course, risk can be on the privacy side and can be on the security side. What is your take on it, Tanin? What do you think?
Well, I see this DPIA or data privacy impact assessment, what we call this in data privacy language. What exactly it is an assessment of risk, understanding where exactly your risk of collecting the data, where you are storing the data, and what information you're collecting. Are we going to process those information that you're collecting from the data subject? So you need to understand that if we collect more information, that we will not be able to process it. That way, we should not be collecting. So how do we calculate that? How do you put a checks to that? DPIA is one of the assessment that helps organization to understand the need for the data storage, and all that checks and balance that has to be done on the data is has to go through the DPIA for all applications. And organizations who have not done it should get in and start doing it. Organizations who have done it should be revisit once again on a yearly basis to make sure is there any change to what had happened last year is the same thing that is being still continuing this year also. So I see a good way to identify the risk and implement your and mitigate your risk, or I would say mitigation that you would implement against the risk that you identify out of the DPI that comes out of it.
So I have one question on the same line. So in GoTrust, what we have done is we have PIAs basically, and our PIAs are very rigorous, and it also depends upon different industry types and different geographies. So if we're talking India as a geography, or we're talking about UAE, or let's say one of the countries within Europe. Uh, and then we also put another composite to it is the industry type, whether it's healthcare or it is manufacturing or it is. Does the PIA differ industry to industry, geography to geography? Can you add more on this part, please?
Yes, I would say, Mansu, it's well said. DPI cannot be a simple or default one. Having said that, you would check your data collection and data retention based on the geography, based on the need of the data. For example, you are collecting, just an example, in India, you collect income tax data. You cannot delete it after 1 year or 2 years. You have to keep it for certain number of years. So your DPI for India would be different for a different country that you are doing a DPI. So based on the law of the land, the DPI differs, and I completely agree with you. And you cannot have one DPA that goes for everyone. There will be always a delta change that has to be added to it with with respect to the each jurisdiction that you are working on to it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for validation. At least our tool is on the right track. So, I would like to move on to our next. Okay. So challenge one, or before picking up this challenge, I would like to also add, make it a little bit more complex, a little bit go in deeper on this discussion. Uh, how to conduct the PIAs in the organization? What are the ways you can identify a PIA? What are the ways after identifying you can mitigate the PIA? So I just also want to discuss about how you conduct it, then how do you identify, and how do you mitigate. Now let's have a discussion on this also, because then we go to the challenge. Otherwise, what happens is we miss these crux, and then answer to the questions will not be more relevant. So I will ask Bhaskara, uh, can you give
Yeah.
some light on this question? How you conduct PI in organization? What are the activities you do?
Okay. So first thing is like understanding where you need the PIA. That's the starting point of conducting a PIA. So like usual thing, or one of the best ways that I've seen so far is plugging in the PIA in business processes itself as a privacy checkpoint. So what happens is, if anyone is trying to start a new process or procure a new solution, or a new solution is being developed in house, in all those cases, the first question would be: is personal data processing involved in this or not? Now that will filter down the requirement of a PIA very clearly, and that's a screening question actually. So this way, if you plug in the privacy requirement, the PIA requirement as a checkpoint in all the business processes where personal data is involved, that will be a very good point to start to start the PIA. Next, you'll move on to the actuals of the PIA, asking questions about what is the overall objective of the process or the software solution you are using that includes personal data processing. You will study the scope of processing in that particular solution or the process. There will be specific questions about the scope of processing. Then you'll move on to the security posture of that. You'll also assess whether third parties are involved in the form of third vendor services, or if you are processing customer personal data or not. So like you will study the entire life cycle of personal data in that particular process or technology which you are trying to assess for privacy risk, and you will also study the information security posture of that. So all of these questions will give you a like high level result of privacy risks or security risks in a particular process or technology solution.
Okay, perfect. I would like to ask a little bit more simple point here. When starting the PIA, basically, what is the first step you take? You went up to the ladder, how you build up the PIA. I could understand that, and I think our audience does. What is the first thing you do to take to make sure that we have a comprehensive evaluation and the PIA which you have built is structured? Maybe Tanin, you can add up on
All right,
the answer.
I see a different way saying that. For me, first is to understand the business. Probably I'll go one step behind it. Understand the business is very much important. Secondly, that comes into it's understand the DFD, data flow diagram. Where is the
Yep.
data is flowing? How is the data is flowing from where to where? Secondly, when you understand all this point of, then you have to what Bhaskara was referring to. very correctly said that we understand what you collect, and at the back of your mind, you think of the GDPR principles. Now, having said that, I'm implementing the DPIA in Europe. So for me, I have to have the seven principles of GDPR at the back of my mind, and I have to think that am I am I asking those questions to my business with respect to this application on those data privacy principles that are already there. For example, do I to this application give a DSR request? Where do you store the data? What you're collecting? Are you collecting lawfully? Are you going to so not just seven principles you have to add to it, but to start with, you should look for those seven principles at the very first stage, and then you can add more. Understanding where you are storing the data, how long you're keeping the data. Now, how long you're keeping the data goes back to your prediction. Is that need of the art that you have to keep the data for a certain period of time? If it is yes, we keep it. If it's no, then we should delete it. Now, all that checks what Bhaskara was referring to. We have to do it, understand the reason for it, and also this also makes us clear, give us the details about the data encryption of it. Are we encrypting the data once we collecting it? Are we storing the data at the on premises, or we are putting on any of the cloud storage? How do we? Is there encryption on transit? Encryption on storage? All that has to be part of your DPIA to understand. So the base is simple. We understand the risk of collecting the data from the data subject and how we are keeping it, how we are maintaining it. Information security, what Bhaskar was referring to, is one of the key things that also comes into picture while you understand where how once we collect it, we understand, but how we are making sure the data is safe and secure within our environment where we are giving it. If we're giving it to third party, how compliant are they? So all this will come into picture when I do a DPI, and this will give me a clear picture. How do I take it forward from there on?
So if I hear you, you said okay, ROPA is a must activity. Record of processing activity is must have before you even go to the PIA,
Yeah,
basically, right? So if I hear you, so you need ROPA for that, and afterwards when you're doing PIAs, basically you are mentioning that you must have DSRs in the place within the tool. You also need to have VRM, vendor risk management, so that we can do the vendor assessments and also the risk mitigation, how much data is shared where, with whom, for what purpose, basically. So I understand because this is a very complex domain. It's not very easy. But let's focus on PIA. Otherwise, our audience is going to get confused. So I will come back to the point which Bhaskara was mentioning about when entering the when starting the PI assessment. What is the first step you take to ensure a comprehensive evaluation? I think the first step answer you gave, Tanin, was we have to do ROPA. We need to know on what basis we are collecting the data, and therefore, now we are doing the PI. Bhaskar, do you want to add something on that? Do I miss that ROPA is the only thing to do, or there is something more which we can do on it before we can even
Yeah.
say that PI
Actually,
is
yeah.
good enough?
So
Yeah.
actually, yeah, like out of these two activities, there are a lot of common points because both these activities kind of give you a complete picture of entire data processing lifecycle and the privacy principles being applied to that in the form of security measures or in the form of restriction or data minimization. So both these activities will give you a very clear idea, and Rupa is the only activity which gives you end-to-end complete picture of data flow. So how it's working in the organization, in the business processes, and as I think I totally agree with Tanin here that starting point is to understand the business process and making sure that the business understands the importance of a PIA or a ROPA. Yeah, definitely, I agree.
So now let's take the first challenge which was here, and then we go further on to our discussion. Uh, Lack of awareness and understanding. Okay. So many organizations lack a deep understanding of PIs and their importance. Do we agree with this in the Indian context, Tanil?
Yes.
so let me take it. So for me, privacy is not a destination; it's a journey that you have to keep on doing it. So by mean that, uh, to do that, it is not that you once feeded your employees with some information and then you think that the employees will replicate the same thing year after year. It is not. You have to keep them, training them. You have to upgrade them, knowledge, and enrich their knowledge, make them understand what is DPI, why you are doing it. Don't. push it through their throat that this is something that exercise that you have to it, but help them understand that there is a risk behind it. Understand the risk and not just risk. There's something also the cost effectiveness of doing the DPI. I'll tell you how. Now, if you're keeping the data forever in your system, you are storing a lot of data, which eventually you are paying for it. Now, if you are deleting the data after processing and you're not going to use it, you are making your database empty. You can make space in your database, which eventually you are saving your money. So think that way that it is not just risk minimization, it is also to make you comfortable with respect to the finance, regard of the fact that we would be saving money for the organization. The DPIA has a lot of many benefits, not just putting across that there's risk minimization to it. Now, adding to it, yes, we have to make sure that all our employees understand what we're doing. The privacy culture needs to build up. Everyone has to go through the trainings, and you should keep on updating your business and your employees about what exactly we're doing and why you're doing behind it.
And when you say this last part, are we talking about awareness programs basically?
Yes, obviously, we have to keep on. So, awareness is one of the key things that goes across because every year you have to run some kind of a process for all employees where they understand. And you know, there is always a change in the laws that happens. Today, what is there, maybe tomorrow some new law would come across, and we have to comply with the new law. Now, how do I tell the employees about the new law? You have to run some trainings, you have to send slides, posters, play some quiz, keep them engaged, make them aware of what privacy means to it. Probably it is tough to make Indian employees understand the value of it. It might take time, but it eventually giving you the fruitful result at the end of the year once you are making sure that all employees are getting trained on the data privacy aspects. Now, understand to the fact that employees are the weakest link, and we have to make sure we have different systems are so well built to make them that they are aware of data privacy principles at the very early stage.
Okay, thank you. So I think we covered the first impact where the knowledge is the key, and training session and awareness workshops, awareness programs basically is one of the key to solve the challenge basically. Then the next problem, which is also in front of you on the screen, is from where we will no go back challenge one. I want please. Yeah, it's still, I was talking about the number 2 point here, which is inadequate training for staff responsible for PIs. This is a one level higher problem that people who are giving training, do we have enough trainers to train? That's next level of problem. And I think there the tools are helping us. One of them is the GoTrust, where we have the awareness programs. Basically, is helping organizations where they can run the whole awareness program with the minimalistic resources, where DPO can execute the whole awareness program for the organizations, and with the awareness program, they can have different type of assessments done, and different groups of people can do different type of assessment basically depending upon the organization size, department, whatever you can send, and then everything is collected back in the dashboard. All information is there. Okay, so I have another question to ask you guys before we move to the next challenge. There's one more very important thing to discuss. We talked about PIA as well. Now, next question of the discussion is: does PIA help us with regulatory compliance? Yeah. So, what we heard about ATM, what happened? Few months
Definitely.
ago.
Sorry, Himanshu?
I will just give you an example that example, one of the news which came in 4 months back regarding Paytm was something related to this, something like this, or was it a bit different where no, they got real big, uh, hefty, uh, I will not say fine, but actions from the regulators regarding the execution of the business. So I would like to discuss on that part too. Go ahead, Bhaskar.
Yeah, actually, it's also it definitely is a part of regulatory compliance. That's where it comes from. And a lot of companies have got like not directly for PIA, but a lot of companies have received administrative fines also in Europe for different reasons. For example, for not identifying the correct legal ground of processing personal data. Some companies got fined because of that. Some companies got fined for not having a written contract in place with adequate data protection clauses. Now, all these things, for all these reasons for which companies are receiving administrative fines, these are the reasons which get covered in a detailed PIA. So PIA is the activity which helps you find out the leaks and the gaps, and that you can plug those gaps. And it's part of definitely it's part of regulatory compliance.
Tanin, your views beyond India?
Well, beyond India, yes, it is very much important that your PI has to be. I was saying earlier also, your PI should be drafted in such a way that you keep on your mind that where exactly you are running this PIA, who are your data subject, because that will consist of more additional to the normal questions that you're putting up on your DPI. And that is well said, Bhaskara. Yes, regulatories are something that has to be kept in mind, because what is in Europe is not in India, or not in Southeast Asian countries. So you things changes from countries to countries, legislation to legislation. So you have to have your DPI based on your regulators' request, and regulators ask. Or I won't say request, regulators ask, where they're asking what needs to be followed, and you have to develop your DPI or PI, what you refer to, in the similar manner.
Thanks. So, next challenge which we have also comes with a question which I also wanted to ask. Tanin, you mentioned that PIA or privacy is not an activity which you do for a day. It's more of a cultural change which you have to have in the blood of yourself
Right.
as a management or an employees basically. It has to be performed on regular basis. And it should not be asked. It should be part of the work culture. When we talk about this, so if you have to perform such an activity, it's a rigorous activity. It's not an easy activity. There are certain costs to it. So, what do you feel about, or feel, or experiences, or you heard about how much impact is there on the cost, or how far you see this cost is impacting, or let's say, not giving enough chance to compliance department in the say to do all the activities which they want to do to ensure PIA or any privacy or security measures are in place. So let's discuss about the cost factor.
Sure. Obviously, all companies cannot afford applications in such cases. What they should do, or rather doing at this point of time, is opening up the Excel and doing a DPIA or DPIA for their applications they have. They call it as a gap assessment, and they complete this task under gap assessment, because there are two phases to it. So understand from the day one, from where you have joined and you are the DPO of a company, and you are working on the privacy framework from the day one. What happened before? That is a major challenge that's come across. What would happen if you're joining a company who is like 10 years old? How many applications would have come across? How many vendors that have been incorporated and been engaged? So you got to work on them, and you have to make sure that what are the ways the data have been flowing. So you as an DPO have to make sure all this checks and balance has to be maintained. And yes, implementation of any privacy framework, whether you are PIA application or you are having something as a DSR application or any such thing, is costly affair, no doubt about it. Big companies do able to afford it. They are able to run it through the applications. They can engage with their data subject while doing the DSR. They can engage with their business while doing the DPIA. And what happens if you have an application? It all keeping you to remind you after every year that you got to do the DPIA once again if there is a change in the process. Now, if that is not there, you have to do a manual job, and that cannot be done with 100% accuracy without having a tool that I can refer to. But having said that, end of the day, it's business huge importance for the company, where they are unable to implement any big tool they keep on insisting to implement privacy framework over an Excel, and you would see many of companies are still working to it, and they are doing on that Excel itself. But you need to understand what budget you have and how you can implement, and what needs to be put across. What is your need of the hour at this point of time? Is PIA application or TSR application is what you're looking at this point of time, because your other things have been settled. Probably you should go for an application who can cater such requests at your end.
Okay, perfect. Bhaskara, any thought process, any inputs on
I
this
believe
point? How to
I
manage the
believe the
cost?
resource,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe more resources are needed by companies whose privacy maturity is higher, actually, because if you're privacy mature, you will get more requests of PIAs being initiated on every technology, every solution, every process which involves personal data. So it's directly proportional to the privacy maturity of the organization. The more mature you are, you will need more resources to handle the privacy operations, and like that's where resource constraints come in. So yeah, I agree. And being a support function like legal, privacy, being a corporate support function, the business looks at it, the management looks at it at a very with a very tight hand, I would say. So yeah, there are resource constraints in the industry. Like the people I know and the friends that are working in privacy space, they all have one issue in common, that there are resource constraints in every company, most of the companies.
No, point taken. Point taken. So, I would like to add on this topic here as well. When we talk about this, so we Talin mentioned about there's a lot of tools in the market, and you also mentioned about it. And if you want to execute such massive exercise, the tools are also very costly. So there, GoTrust is designed from the Indian perspective, so it will help Indian customers in that perspective to man balanced out this aspect also. At the same time, making sure the quality and the applicability is high, but at the same time, making sure that the relevance of the pricing price point is also valid in the Indian market. So, with that point, I would also like to ask another question, which is a very interesting one. So, how do we ensure? So, let's say it's a journey, we are executing it, but where is the governance of the PI? How do we manage that? All different laws are changing, different acts are coming in. How are we making sure our PI is relevant? Who's responsible? Whose responsibility or ownership it is? It's a DPO only responsible, CISO. Who is responsible within the organization? Who should own it? Basically,
So
Bhaskara
I
or
would like
Tanil?
to, yeah, I would like to answer this. Uh, my interpretation of privacy laws is controller is responsible for conducting the PIS. That is the business owner. Process owner is
This
responsible at the end of the day for conducting the PIA. DPO is only there to advise you, to help you to walk through the PIA. Like he can hold your hand, he or she can hold your hand. That's all a DPO can do. It's the job of the process owner, the business owner, to conduct the PIA.
See, I totally agree with you. But why I'm asking this question, it's very difficult one, tricky one to me, because every organization we have a hierarchy. Somebody is owning certain tasks, right? Certain piece of work in the So if I want to run my company at the best quality with the best assessment, risk level, minimizing the risk and making everything is top notch, where should I go if I hear there is an update coming in the law, right? Which department has to act? Compliance department has to act. Who's within the compliance has to basically lead this and get the PIA controls updated, changed, modified, whatever is needed.
So definitely
Depending on
that
the
will be your
yeah,
privacy office. Yeah.
privacy officer. Then, from your point of view,
Yeah,
because
true, very well articulated, Bhaskara. What I Yes, I completely agree. The laws of of the change of regulations or anything that comes up in any jurisdictions has to come to the DPO house at first. The DPO club would just be, or the DPO organizations or the team would be able to articulate that, and will be able to make them in easy language and understand the business, and business has to run it. So business has to take the responsibility of doing it every year, the DPI impact assessment, and has to be if who is the main body at out here. is the DPO who is running that for the business, and the business has to take the initiative of getting it done, because it is the responsibility of DPA business to make sure the DPI has been completed, and we have to have a record of it, because tomorrow if there is an assessment at your organization by the authorities, the DPI has to be shown that this is what we have done, and we have made sure that the risk of of this application is minor or probably it's nil, and we have understood by doing this impact assessment, and hence we are working in this format how we are processing the data or how we are collecting the data. So yeah, well said. Yes, we got to uh, pick up the new regulations by the DPO office, and the DPO office has to lay down the regulations or rules of how we do the DPI.
So let's go a little bit deeper. So we talked about it. So let's take some live examples. So how, who, and what is managing this in your organization, Tanin? And then I go to Bhaskara for the same. So how you guys are managing it with your organization? What is the organization setup? How many team is there? No, not in detail, but on high level, because so that our audience can get the context if they want to set the similar thing in their companies.
So let me go ahead first. I always say that there's a two journey that you have to do. One journey is would have a company would have gone through when you are not there, and there's one round of journey that you would be starting from the day you join the company. So you got to see what has happened at the back end or before you joined. The application that's been onboarded, you have to do a DPI. If nothing has been done, and you are the first DPO of the company, you have to do an assessment of all that applications one by one, and that all that has gone through when you are not there. So you have to understand the data flow diagram of the application, understand the DPI to be done, and that is easy or the first task of a DPO of a new company who has not gone through the DPO. Or I would say there's no an existing DPO was there, and you are the first DPO, and you have to run it from the day one, and you don't know what's to be should be done at the very first day. So understand where we collect the data on by doing the DPI at once. Also, once you go through and keep on doing it, you will be able to understand the scope that has to be collected, has to be conquered, and then you will be able to understand what amount of individuals you need in the data privacy office to run the data privacy program at your office. And in this case, I believe that the call is with the DPO, who has to understand the scope and then run it accordingly. But it is totally depending on the business to business, what kind of data that you're collecting and how much you're collecting, how many vendors you have. All these questions answer has a DPO has to get answer for it first, and then he will able to understand how he has to run this program at his own space.
Okay. So DPO is the key to basically structure the whole department. That's what I get it. Bhaskara, any lights on the question, or do you take it?
Sure. So it's the same for me also. DPO is the go-to person for PIAs, and like we ensure that any project or any solution that involves or any process that involves personal data processing, we assess it like through our PIA templates thoroughly. When they understand the scope of processing and include all those questions, use the templates that are available globally, and then create a set of questionnaire that suits our business needs and that suits our business tailored to our particular business solutions. So yeah, we assess them thoroughly in wherever it involves personal data processing. It's the same as Tanin said.
So my next question is also the next slide. Basically, we talked about what we have to do. But every place where humans are involved, we always hear a little bit pushback from different departments. And me being CTO, CIO in the past, I was getting a lot of requests from different compliance departments in my company. So I also say, okay, I have to either build the product features or can I complete these NFRs, basically, which are must-haves to comply with the regulations and laws. How do you get these pushbacks, or do you see any such resistance from different teams within your companies to comply, or at not comply is even tough word, at least to push these PIAs towards your teams, basically, or awareness programs towards your teams? How do you see that, Karan?
So For me, as a DPO, I have to be very comfortable with business. Business has to tell you what they're planning to do in future. Business have to involve you at the very early stage of implementing any new process, new application, or something. So I'm talking about something very new that the business is planning to do in 6 months or 1 year down the line. Now,
Yeah.
as a DPO, I have to be an enabler, not a blocker for any process. I have to get them a solution. I cannot always say this is not done, this is not going, this is a roadblock, this is something not possible or something like that. I have to look for a solution out of it. So I can be or I can give solution if I've been involved at the first hour rather than on the 11th hour when I would be at the very late stage where I have to give any suggestion and as an application no, developer, it will be tough for implementing something like called privacy by design as one of the key aspects that everyone knows of data privacy. So that has to be inbuilt at the very early stage. So if I have not been involved at the first stage of the meeting of while a new application or process has to be built up, I would be not able to give some suggestion. So being a DPO, I have to be very open to the business, keep meeting business each and every time, have a discussion on privacy, make them comfortable that privacy is not a roadblock. It's rather helping you to keep you safe for future fines if you get into it. We are making sure that your life becomes easy. And a quick solution at this point of time maybe get delayed and later on you do a full release. It's better rather than a quick fix and saying that let's avoid this time and we'll see next time. So I believe in having a good rapport with your teams and the business owners, because then they then will be open up to you. They will come to you for getting some solution suggestion and help them build a process out of it. That any new applications come into picture, your new process come into picture, the DPO office should be involved at the very first stage where I can give my feedback onto the new application or new process to it.
Okay. Thank you. Well said. Being friend is always better than sitting on the other side. Totally
Yes,
agree.
it becomes tough at
Only
that point of time to say no, that no, this is not going, and they are not ready to hear that this is no, because
and
they are short of time. They have to implement that by next quarter or maybe next 6 months, and you have to give them some solution. Now, it is better to give the solution in the at the early stage, and which they can incorporate and they can be compliant rather than doing some silly mistake at the end of the release. And when the release had happened, the DPO was not been involved, and later on we come to know that the uh, the data collection is wrong, the data flow diagram is wrong, the information collection is more than what is suspect to be done. There's no consent management out there. So all these gaps that are filled can be come across at the last stage should be filled up at the early stage. That can only happen if you are very close to the DPO office.
I totally agree. Totally. Uh, Master, I would like to add your challenges or departments where you feel
Yeah,
crossing. Uh,
I agree. I agree that like there will be challenges whenever you introduce something new which was not there, and people have been doing something in a traditional manner for years, and you ask them to start doing something in a new manner. It's a totally a concept of change management. So before I got into privacy consulting in 2018, I had to convince myself that why it is needed. So I did my research and found out a lot of things. It's a concept of change management. You have to go with the flow. You cannot block the business, as Tanin said. You have to go with the flow, make them understand. And I'm now talking about Indian context. Its privacy compliance is in the starting stage for the organizations. So you'll find a lot of resistance, and you'll have to go with them, make them understand whatever they are not able to do. The process owners, the business owners, do it for them. Show them how it's done, and what's the importance, what is the result they are getting out of it, and how it's adding value to their business in terms of customer trust, in terms of business trust. Like, you're putting privacy above anything else. So that's the value you have to show to the business as well. And talking about resistance, from the last 8 years, I've selected a few of the responses that I've got. One was I've been working like this for the last 25 years. Why should I start doing this? So you'll get such responses also. You have to be prepared and be in a calm manner and just make them understand the value of it.
So also
Nice.
to add what Bhaskar says, and I would also agree to the point, and I'll add something. What companies can do is look for to build privacy champions within the organization. They can select one privacy champions from each floor for each department maybe, and then they would be like the first point of contact. For example, they can be reach out and they can be trained in such a way that they have at least some knowledge of data privacy more than what other people who are below them having it. So what it helps is that they are very close with the business and they get the inputs at the first stage and they get the solution right there. And then you should build a culture of building privacy champions in the company to make your life easy, because you have to see that a company cannot have a team of 40 individuals running a privacy office. You need to have maybe some office it's just one or two people. How do you run it? You have to have some privacy champions in the company who can run it for you. They should be your first point of contact, and that helps at the end of the day. And I believe in that. And then because when I say something, I should think of an organization who has a two-member team and who has 40 or 60-member team. 60-member team can easily run it, but how about the one or two-member team? How you have to do it? You have to take people, process, technology. You have to change all of the three.
Totally, totally. I think one thing which we talked about but we didn't mention in our discussion was about the end result what PIAs and building our privacy programs helps us is we will not be in the news like BSNL was a couple of days ago. There was a data breach. So I think being doing a right thing in the right manner will help, of course, the program to succeed, will help the cost in effective manner. So you will not have a cost which is skyrocketed. You can manage it. Like examples we heard from the two gentlemen saying that on top of it, the end result is your risk is mitigated. So the chances of data breach are not only data breach is one big thing, but it's still the trust, which is a very big factor in your consumer's mind. That also is very important. So you can build up the trust because more options customer has to choose from what kind of data he wants to share, how he wants to share it, and when he can revoke them. That builds a trust, and coming into the new millennium of new generations, you see we are going in that direction. So people want to have a choice of their own data and to have their own how they want to define their privacy. So that helps basically. So from employee point of view, we discussed. From customer point of view, we discussed. I think we are at end of our session now today. Looking at the time also, we also want to have some questions from the forum. Please post your questions so that our guest here can take them up.
Yeah, I can see one question out there. The GPTPA does not mandate companies to maintain ROPAs, but I feel they somehow still do it to gather insight from data. Yes, I agree. Nothing is mandate out there, but what if you're doing it? Understand that you are doing because of not a term called ROPA, but a term called risk. You are identifying the risk out of it, and eventually you should. Every company wants to mitigate the risk or minimize the risk to the minimum level that they can reach out to it. So, doing such exercise, you might get a pushback from the business that it is not required. Why you are doing it? Well, I'm not doing because of it is there in the book. Doing it because as per the I'm trying to minimize the risk out of it. You're collecting more data. We are vulnerable to more data. If I collect what we will process, we eventually collect less data. And if you keep on asking why multiple number of times to the business will open up and say that, well, fine, this we are not processing. We can delete it, or we can remove it from collection, and we can have only all those data points. And some exercise will lead up to 40 data points before DPI or ROPA, and eventually after doing all this exercise you end up saying 5 or 6 data points. So you see the amount of risk that you have minimized, what amount of data you got reduced. And as I was explaining earlier also, collection of more data, you got to store it somewhere. The storage you're paying for it. Now understand, if you're doing all that and you can eventually save money for the company, that's the best thing that a ROPA or any such exercise can help you to do it. So yes, ROPAs and DPIs would maybe not there in books, but doing it is minimizing the risk that you can talk about.
Agreed. I think if there are no more questions, then I would like to conclude on time because it is also very important that we make sure that we execute all our activities on time, and just in time is even better. So I would like to thank Tanin and Bhaskar for a wonderful discussion. Thanks for the inputs. There's something came in, so we'll take this question definitely. But first, I would like to thank you, both of the guests, and then we take this question. DPDP does not mandate companies. Oh, I think we took this
Sorry,
one, right?
that,
Yes,
there's
yeah, we took this one. So this is done. Then I will say thank you once again to our listeners, and we'll keep on posting nice sessions like this. Come hear us. We'll explain how GoTrust is solving these challenges, which Tanin and Bhaskar has mentioned. Join our channel on the LinkedIn and also on the YouTube. And then you can also see the product demos there, which will help you also to experience the product yourself. And yeah, if any need anything, please contact us. We'll definitely help you to succeed in your organizations and make sure that we have very good. Okay, I think thank you for
well,
coming in. So yeah, thanks. Thank you
thank you
once
for
again. Thank you, and
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
Bhaskar. Yeah, thanks.